And if for some reason the users that you're migrating aren't all using Exchange, we have an IMAP migration progress. We have an IMAP migration process that we can use for your Gmail accounts, we'll say. In order for us to perform an IMAP migration, we have a few considerations. We're going to migrate the user's inbox and any other folders associated with that user's inbox. We're not going to migrate contacts, calendars, or tasks. The maximum number of items that we can migrate from a single mailbox is 500,000. I have a few accounts that would not make it, just to let you know. The largest single email that I can migrate is only up to 35 megabytes. Again, a few items that wouldn't make it if they're trying to migrate some of my content. And like we talked about previously, to improve performance, we'll want to increase our server connections. In addition to that, we need either the user's password to access their email or the admin account to access the email. Now, what we could do, if we don't have the user's password, and most likely we don't, we could reset that password to something that we remember, perform the migration, and then let them know that we've reset their password and this is what it's sitting at this point in time. Similar to our previous migration options, we have several steps that we need to perform. The first one is to create user mailboxes and assign licenses. We'll next prepare the IMAP source email. We'll just assume this is coming from Gmail. We'll communicate to users what they're changing, when it's changing, how it's going to happen, and how it's going to affect their sign-in process because they're used to signing in to, say, Gmail. And this is going to be completely different. We're going to create the CSV file containing all the users being migrated. We'll connect to their source email system from within Office 365. We need to establish a connection between the source and the destination being Office 365. And then we're going to create, run, and then verify the success of the migration batch. Again, we can batch these people up so we're not migrating a gazillion people at one time. We'll also have to modify our DNS MX record, so all of the mail now will be routed to Office 365. So as we go through this process, we're seeing similar steps as we complete these migrations. Import service migration considerations. We're going to migrate the PST files using the import service. We're going to literally upload the PST file through the network, and we can do so by using the azcopy.exe tool, or we can ship the PST files in a specific drive that you prepared, and Microsoft will do this for you. To do so, you're going to use a WA import-export.exe tool to prepare and configure this drive for use by the import service. You'll then use the import service to import the data to the mailboxes. The steps to perform the import service migration. We'll download the PST import tools and any keys that were applied for protection. We'll upload or copy the PST using the method of choice. We'll create a PST import mapping file because some of the variables need to be mapped to each other. We'll create a PST import job. We'll filter the PST data to be imported to the mailboxes, and then we'll start the PST import job. So this is another way for us to perform the migration, but now we're performing the migration based on the entire PST file. So there's obviously some pros to doing so. So we've been through a lot of options, a half a dozen of them to be precise. Let's look at this table to kind of summarize what we've gone through and help you make the best decision. As you can see, the top row, if you're running greater than Exchange 2007 or 2007 or greater, however you want to say that, and you have less than 2,000 mailboxes and you're not running your accounts or managing your accounts on-prem, use the cutover migration method. If you're running specifically Exchange 2007 and you have less than 2,000 mailboxes and you're again not managing your accounts on-prem, you could use the staged cutover. Exchange 2007 with more than 2,000 mailboxes with your accounts managed on-prem, now you can move between the staged or remote move in hybrid mode. If you're running Exchange 2007 or 2010 and your number of mailboxes are greater than 2,000, and your accounts are managed on-prem, you can again use the remote move in hybrid. If you're running non-Exchange, we don't have a maximum the number of mailboxes, we are managing the accounts on-prem, then you're going to want to use the IMAP. So just some options. If you're running 13 and 16, whatever works best for your organization will be up to you. When you're looking at how to perform this, or if you're wondering, how do I get some help? There's a little confusion here, or I might qualify for 2 or 3 of them. What's best for me? You can go into your Office 365 tenant, and you can go in and you can run this option called Start the Office 365 Mail Migration Advisor. This will walk you through and ask you some questions and perform some tests to determine what's the best route for you to migrate your content or your mailboxes from on-prem to Office 365. In here, notice you also have mail and calendar migration. You have your cutover, IMAP, Gmail contacts and calendar, stage 2007, even back to 2003. You have your hybrid 2016, 13, and 2010. You have your minimal or express hybrid deployment advisor. And you also have your Azure Active Directory Connect. That's that Azure AD Connect I was telling you about that you need in order to perform some of these migrations, because you have to perform a directory synchronization. So check out this page. In fact, we're going to jump out and I'll show you exactly where to find this page, because you'll be wanting to use this to help you figure out what's best based on your personal configuration. PowerShell. You'll want to know PowerShell. Notice I have test-migration server ability. That means I'm going to go ahead and test to see if I'm ready or able to perform a migration. New migration endpoint. Remember I said I had to create an endpoint, which is really the communication service between on-prem and Office 365. Well, that's the new migration endpoint. We have the get-migration endpoint in case you've already configured it or you want to see if you've configured it. You can do so using this PowerShell command. We have the verb-migration batch. Verb means you're going to plug in any one of these verbs: new, get, start, or remove. Any of those will work with the migration batch option. We have a new move request, which allows me to move mailboxes. And we also have the get-move request. These two are geared more towards hybrid mailbox migrations. So be aware of these PowerShell commands, because as we talked about, there's a couple of ways we can perform these, either through the web user interface or through PowerShell. And these are a couple of the additional commands that weren't mentioned throughout the module. Let's jump out and take a look at where I locate some of these data migration tools available to us through the Office 365 tenant. Here we are back in our Office 365 Admin Center, and before we go into the Exchange Admin Center, let's go down to Setup. Scroll down, notice we have an option, Data Migration. We'll click on that, and coming in here, we have some of the options that we've been discussing. Uploading PST files, Gmail, Outlook, Hotmail. You can see Yahoo over here. Coming down, we have other email sources and Exchange. Notice it's telling you Exchange 2010, 13, or 16. And then underneath that, we have onboarding and migration guidance, Exchange, Gmail, Office Pro Plus, Pro Plus Quick Start, and over there you can see it a bit of the cloud, what's OneDrive for Business. So what we want to do is I want to show you where that wizard is. I'm going to go ahead and click on Exchange here. And that brings up the interface for the option to choose to start the Office 365 Mail Migration Advisor. Over to the right here, actually let me just go ahead and scroll up and give us some more real estate here. We have the Admin Center Migration Portal, basic email setup if you're less than 50 mailboxes, and same with the Fast Track Center Support if you're less than 50 mailboxes. Really sweet for smaller organizations that have less than 50 people. Mail and calendar migration. Here's the cutover IMAP and Gmail. Gmail contacts and calendars. Stage approach if you're running 2003 or 2007. Hybrid 2016, 13, and 10. Minimal or express hybrid, and then the Azure Active Directory Connect. That's that Azure Active Directory Connect that I talked to you about having to have installed in order to perform the initial directory synchronization. So a few options for us to access and tools for us to work with right from in the Office 365 Admin Center. Let's go down to our Admin Centers and go into the Admin Centers, specifically Exchange. And notice there's really nothing here at the Exchange Online Center, but if we go to recipients, we can actually start drilling into individual users. And I can look at migration in batches for individual users. And here I can click on the ellipses for the migration endpoints. Remember, that's the service running in the on-prem space. And I can go in here and click on the Migrate to Exchange Online. And here's where I can choose the remote move migration. And it gives me a nice explanation to the right. I'll change it to staged, and then cutover, and then IMAP. And it, again, provides a nice explanation. I'm going to go ahead and go back to remote move, and I'm going to click next. And notice it's asking me for individual users or a CSV file. Let me go ahead and go back. If I go to cutover migration, and then click next, It's asking me for an email address just to run a test connectivity to the online space to make sure that we can communicate. And then we'll use just one more, the IMAP migration, and we'll do a next. And again, it's looking for a CSV file. So everything's pretty much walking you through step by step on what you need to provide them and complete in order for a successful migration of your mailboxes, regardless of which type of migration you're trying to perform. And we have a couple different access points, one in the Exchange Admin Center and one in the Office 365 Admin Center. So this is where you'd come in and begin your process of migrating mailboxes to Exchange Online. So in this module, we got to take a look at several of the mailbox migration options, including remote move, staged, cutover, hybrid, IMAP, and the import service, along with the two ways to perform these mailbox migrations, including PowerShell and the web UI. Next up, we're going to talk about mailbox access considerations and configurations.